against the guy by the name of Jason Robinson. And let's talk a little bit about Robinson. This is a guy who had been on a roll, and then he lost a fight. Now there's always that question of, you lose a fight, how do you recover from that?
Yeah, well, he's got to come back. The fight that he lost was to O'Neal Bell, and it was an important fight for him, and he did score a knockdown in that fight over O'Neal Bell, who is a very good fighter. But he seems to be confident. His record certainly leaves not too much to be desired, Barry, with only 2 losses, one of them to Bell in that last fight. In fact, tonight, if you take a look at it, we're getting 2 fighters who have lost their last fight to O'Neal Bell. But this guy has a lot going for him here in Jason.
Now, Rivera, on the other hand, is a guy that you might say is at that real crossroads. He's lost a few fights in a row.
Right.
He has to get things turned around.
He's dropped 3 in a row, Barry. That last one to O'Neal Bell, in which he was stopped in that fight. However, this is a guy who seems to know he's at those crossroads. He talks a lot about it. The record not that bad, but he's lost 3 in a row. And he's a guy who seems to see that some things happening. He's going, I feel ages might be creeping up on me. I don't want to be an opponent. So he's speaking in those terms. So what I think you might have here tonight is a fighter who's fighting with a little bit of desperation to save his own career.
And that's what makes for a great fight. Let's go back to the champ, Sean O'Grady, right now. Sean, you've been in this situation before. How tough is it? You lose a fight, now you got to come back, and you're in one of those situations. We overwork this phrase in sports, but you're in a must-win situation. Pretty tough.
Barry, we've seen it happen so many times. You lose one fight, and these fighters lose their fights subsequent to that one fight. I think it actually blows their confidence. However, I spoke with Jason Robinson about these fights. He'd won 8 in a row before he suffered his fight and his defeat in his last fight. In that last fight, he says, I think I won the fight. It was close enough that I thought I should have gotten the victory. Also, he says, I've gone back to the gym and I've relied on my martial arts training. He says the mental conditioning helped me to where I'm ready to go back and get those 8, 9 victories again. He wants a victory tonight over Jose Luis Rivera. Back to you.
All right, thanks very much, Sean. With that, let's take a look at the numbers and see how these two match up with one another. One of these guys, of course, running out of time a little bit, Rivera, at 34 years of age, and as Rich said, he's lost his last 3 fights. This is his tomorrow. He's got a little pop with 14 knockouts in his 18 wins. Robinson, a guy who's going to grind you down, 7 knockouts, but he's not really known as a knockout puncher. Just 26 years of age. These two guys looking to step up. With that, let's meet him. We go to Jimmy Lennon Jr. Jimmy.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you, and we welcome you to the Grand Victoria Casino here in Elgin, Illinois, as we have a big night of action coming your way. Fox Sports Net presents Sunday Night Fights, and it's all brought to you by America Presents and 8 Count Productions. Tonight's action is sanctioned by the Illinois Department of Professional Regulation. Physicians at ringside, Dr. Glenn Bynum and Dr. Toby Barbado. Timekeepers at the bell, also keeping count of the knockdowns, Barney Harrell and Dave Morrow. Our 3 judges scoring this bout from ringside, Jerome Jacobko, Ted Gimza, and Crystal Wright, and our referee in charge of the action, Tim Adams. All right, fans, here we go with a cruiserweight special attraction scheduled for 10 rounds of boxing. Introducing to you first on my left, he is fighting out of the red corner, entering the ring wearing red, white, and blue trunks, hailing from Cleveland, Ohio. His weight 192 pounds. His hard-hitting record stands at 18 wins, 5 losses, with 14 wins coming by way of knockout. Introducing Jose Luis Rivera. His opponent across the ring on my right. He is fighting out of the blue corner in this 10-round attraction, wearing black trunks with white trim, from Chicago and residing in Maywood, Illinois. He weighed in at a ready 189 pounds with a record of 14 wins, 2 losses. He has 7 wins coming by way of knockout. Here is the WBC Continental America's champion, introducing Jason Robinson. And once again, Tim Adams, our referee in charge, now to give instructions.
Okay, I went over the rules with you fighters in the dressing rooms, all right? Here are the instructions. Keep your punches up at all times. Obey the commands that's going to be given to you at all times. In the case of a knockdown, the man who is standing, I'm going to put him in a neutral corner where I want him to be, and I expect for him to stay there until I tell him to come out. Good luck to both of you. Protect yourselves at all times. Let's go to work.
Let's take a look at the unified rules that will govern this fight. 3 knockdown rule won't be in effect, nor will there be a standing 8 count. A fighter cannot be saved with the bell in any round. It is only the referee, Tim Adams, in this case, who can stop the fight. The headbutt rule, we go to the cards at the end of 4 rounds. This is a 10-round fight, and we are set to go. And Jose Luis Rivera, as you can see, are borrowing a page out of the Bernard Hopkins playbook and selling space on his back.
That has got to be the newest trend in boxing, I'm sure. By the way, my back is for rent also.
It is available.
Now, I think obviously what Rivera is doing here is his style. He wants to crowd Jason Robinson. He wants to smother Jason Robinson if he can, get right on top of him, keep his head right on his chest, and not give Robinson with those long arms any chance to get off. This is where he wants the fight to be, right here. See how he's got his head right on the chest of, and now on the shoulder of Robinson. That's where he wants the fight.
And Robinson allowing him in there earlier in this fight.
Despite the fact that O'Neal Bell stopped Rivera in the last fight in the 11th round, that was due to a bad cut over his nose. O'Neal Bell said he is the toughest fighter I've ever fought.
Right now he's got Robinson going backwards, and that's what he wants to do.
And he came out with that very thought in mind, Barry, of not letting Robinson get started here, of immediately trying to smother his attack, pushing him, dictating the style of the fight, which may not be, aesthetically pleasing to everybody, but it would be in his favor.
Yeah, I don't think style points much matter to him. Robinson finally got him off and gave himself a little punching room.
Right, that's what he's going to have to do. Push him off and throw combinations.
But Rivera dictating the way the fight will go right at the moment. And I'm sure there'll be a discussion about that in Robinson's corner.
Rivera's a guy, he says, about his recent losses that he had, a lot of it just reflects on his personal life. And he admits lack of training, lack of discipline. Well, I guess the first thing in remedying that is recognizing it.
Now he's got to fix it. He got a little bit in on Robinson early on, but Robinson answered.
Yeah, and now Robinson has hurt him. He hurt him with an uppercut as he was falling in.
Here's where Robinson wants the fight. Robinson, as we said, is not a big puncher, but he'll wear you out. Nice combination by Robinson to end that round. So even though Jose Luis Rivera dictated the round, I'm not sure that he won the round. Sunday Night Fights are brought to you tonight by...
Here's Jose Luis Rivera. He's a rough, tough customer, already suffering a little bruising, but you saw his style, and you see these scouting report points, and he's a physically strong guy. He wants to oppose that strength on you, likes to go to the body. Thing is, he's had several hard fights, and now we're questioning whether that's going to take its toll on him. The other side of the ring, you have Jason Robinson, who's certainly, in terms of technique, the more skilled of the two. He comes in here, as always, very good condition, and trying to show now that he is able to, bounce back after a tough defeat.
Robinson was a kickboxer for many years, and, matter of fact, attained a championship level as a kickboxer. Says this kind of fighting is much easier. He said all you have to worry about is the person's hands. You don't have to worry about his feet or his elbows or anything else.
Well, I don't know if I'd agree with him on that, since I've seen very few kickboxers go on to great success in the professional boxing ranks. But he did not, Barry, have too many amateur fights. Only 3 of them, I believe, in terms of regular boxing.
Sean O'Grady has joined us ringside, and interesting matchup, I think, Sean, if only for the fact that it does kind of fall into one of those last hurrah situations.
Yeah, they both must win tonight. Robinson realizes how important this fight is, but so does Rivera. Rivera cannot allow for Robinson to get the upper hand. That's why Rivera is trying to smother Robinson, trying to stay on the inside. Rivera, been in this game a long time. Says I'm 34, but I feel 26.
Well, the thing is to look like you're 26 in there and not 34.
That's right. Rivera has managed to get inside and crowd Robinson, but when he's there, he's not doing a lot of business. Good body shot by Robinson.
Yeah, Robinson's starting to get the range, and the range is not being toe-to-toe on the inside. When he can score with the uppercut. He did that in the first round to some effect on one occasion. And now managing to keep it a little bit more of an outside fight, which is to his advantage.
Yeah, Robinson long and lanky. 6'1", 73-inch reach, and he utilizes that reach well. Fighting on the outside like that. Also, he's a southpaw. Punches come at you from different angles. Rivera used to getting hit with a jab from the left hand, right cross, and left hook. Now he gets hit with a right jab, left cross, right hook.
Robinson might have stayed as a kickboxer, but he said the kickboxing scene kind of dried up. I really hadn't thought about that, but it's true. If you think back to the time when Benny the Jet Urquidez was fighting and Peter Cunningham, those two guys were kind of bringing kickboxing to the fore.
Where is it now, of course? And where do you go to get on national television like Robinson is doing? You know, a lot of those kickboxers have not been able to make the transition into professional boxing because they can't keep their feet on the ground. They have to kick all those times. And this Robinson's doing a fine job of digging into the mat, you know, getting some leverage in his punches. And without kicking, you have to remember, you really have to concentrate when you go from one sport to the other, kickboxing to boxing, and you don't want to kick your opponent.
Touch gloves after that.
Rivera been around this fight game a long time. He knows exactly what he wants to do. A little low blow, I think, by Robinson.
And Rivera just walked away. End of 2.
Now take a look at this body punch. It's going to be a good legal blow. Watch the right. It comes up and underneath right into the solar plexus. Man, that is a strong punch. And Rivera's reaction to that was, you know, I think I'll just go take a little walk here.
He was frozen momentarily. When you hit right there, the xiphoid process, right in the solar plexus, it takes your breath away from you. I think Rivera would have called that a low blow. He wants anything below his neck a low blow, but it was a fair punch. Nice shot from Robinson. Robinson says he's trying to mix up his attack a little bit more, not hunting so much for the head, wants to go downstairs, and he does.
I think what he's doing is really starting to dictate the fight here. He's just not allowing Rivera to do what he wants to do. Well, right hand by Rivera drove Robinson into the ropes, just as I say that.
Yeah, that was what Rivera wanted to do. But Robinson is really using that body attack.
Yeah, great job. You know why he's doing that? Because Rivera is laying in on him, and Robinson doesn't like that. How do you get your opponent to quit doing that? You control him with those body punches.
That kind of puts Rivera in a bad spot, doesn't it?
It sure does.
As to how to fight this fight. Effective little work there, though, by Rivera in close.
Yeah, he's pushing his punches, though. I would like to see some of those strong punches coming from Rivera, especially downstairs to the body. You know, he's kind of pushing, and then he's mauling, kind of trying to wear Robinson down. But Robinson's clocking him.
Cut under the left eye of Rivera. It's underneath the eye, but there's no telling how much trouble that could give him as this fight goes on.
It being underneath the eye, the cut itself wouldn't necessarily give him trouble, but there's a lot of puffiness there too, Barry.
Yes.
So that can close the eye, push up from underneath.
Rivera, I noticed this earlier, has a lot of scar tissue around. Remember, he was cut over the nose in the fight with O'Neal Bell, and there's still a pretty good sized scar right over the bridge of his nose. Crowd enjoying this flurry.
They're mixing it up pretty good. And I think in that last flurry, Rivera would have had every excuse to take a knee, but we talked about the desperation, the desperate situation he's in and trying to save his career.
Got into boxing when he was 12. Rivera did with his brother Tracy. They went to the gym together. He fell in love with the sport. Went 26-2 in the amateurs. Lost to our friend Jeremy Williams before embarking on a professional career. Now 18-5 with 14 KOs. Wants a victory here to resurrect his career, but he's really in trouble.
A lot of blood coming from that cut. It is underneath the left eye by the nose.
Okay, take a look at the eye here. Now watch the punches that are going to come. They're going to rip the eye on a couple of occasions. He's looking for that cut. There's one. See that? And there's another one. And a third as Jason Robinson looking immediately for the big eye cut.
And that's a cut that is very hard to repair in the 1 minute that you have between rounds. I don't care how good a cut man you have in your corner. Robinson not allowing himself to be crowded by Rivera any longer. That was only in the first round. On your card, a 1-point edge for Robinson. Meaning that I would assume he gave the first round to Rivera.
First round to Rivera based on the first 2 minutes of that round, Barry, but Robinson certainly has had the edge ever since then. And Rivera really fighting an uphill battle at this point because of the eye as well. And because Robinson has been so adept in going to the body.
Another good body shot.
Oh, look at that. Oh, man.
There's a great shot.
One of the rare knockdowns that you'll see completely from a body punch.
Well, it just takes your breath completely away, and that's what it looked like.
And that's just what we were talking about. I don't know that he wants to go on.
That's it. It's over.
He must have said the magic word to the referee. No mas.
Well, he had said he was going to continue with his career because he hadn't been knocked out. He hadn't really been pummeled, and I'm not sure that he could say that any longer. I think he got pummeled tonight.
Well, he gave it a good try, but he really took a beating to the body, and that last shot was a brutal one to the body. Jason Robinson with his manager Arnie Rosenthal. There's a left hook to the body. Look at it. Now look at him double over, and ow. Woo.
That hurts. So Jason Robinson avenges that most recent loss. He's back in the winning track. Big win for him tonight. We'll be back. Jimmy Lennon Jr.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the time of 1 minute 26 seconds in round number 4. Fighter is unable to continue. Our referee in charge, Tim Adams, stops the contest. The winner by way of technical knockout, Jason Robinson.
Jason Robinson now 15 up and 2 down, and that loss to Bell is only a memory.
That's right, a good bounce-back fight for him. Jose Luis Rivera came in here, tried his best, and had some early success. In the first round, he was pushing Robinson back. You see that terrific right uppercut? I gave Rivera that first round, but then Jason Robinson began to get himself together, began to find the range, and really did well with body punching. Look at that right, and he just took a walk away from it, and it would eventually be a great body punch, which would end the fight. There it is, left hook, side of the belly, and down goes Rivera, and that was it. He told the referee upon his arising that he'd had enough.
Those punches, really smart. They take the breath right out of you, and that, of course,